Last year, we finally saved enough for the down payment to buy an old apartment in a good school zone in this big city. My son is starting primary school next year, and we worked so hard for this place. With our budget, we could only afford a 2-bedroom unit on the second floor in the southwest corner of a high-rise building. The lighting wasn't great, the layout was pretty average, and the bathroom was especially awkward, with the toilet stuck in a sharp corner between 2 walls. But still, the 3 of us moved in happily. It was our own home after all. Plus, the school was one of the best in the city. My husband was quite proud, saying our kid now had a head start. The first few months went by without any issues. The neighbors didn't interact much, and we just went about our daily lives. My husband and I worked during the day, our son went to daycare, and at night we gathered for dinner and watched TV. It was a simple, peaceful life, and we felt content. One night I was coming back late from work and ran into a man in the elevator. He wore a mask and a hoodie that covered his face. He always pressed the button for the 3rd floor, and I figured he must live just above us. He never spoke, and there was something gloomy about him, but I didn't think too much of it. Since we moved in, we often heard sounds from upstairs, like furniture being dragged across the tile floor. It never lasted long, but the screeching was sharp, like metal scraping on the ground. My husband and I thought there might be kids living up there, which would explain the noise. After seeing that man in the elevator a few times, I wondered if he was the owner upstairs. Then strange things started happening. One evening I was chopping vegetables in the kitchen when I heard that familiar dragging sound from the ceiling. This time it was louder and more frantic, like someone was desperately moving something heavy. I frowned, wondering why the neighbors were making such a racket so late. My husband heard it too and muttered, "What's wrong with these people?" Suddenly, our lights flickered and then went out. The kitchen was plunged into darkness with only a faint glow from the streetlights outside. My heart skipped a beat, and I almost dropped the knife. My husband hurried to find a flashlight, while our son started crying in the living room. I tried to calm him down, but a sense of unease crept over me. After a few minutes, the power came back on. The lights flickered to life, but the uneasy feeling remained. Even stranger, I noticed the kitchen window was slightly open, even though I was sure I'd closed it before. My heart tightened as I rushed to lock it, feeling a chill run down my spine as if someone had been watching us. In the following days, the dragging noises from upstairs continued. Sometimes they were loud enough to wake us up in the middle of the night. One night, I got up to use the bathroom and heard faint, strange murmurs coming from the ceiling, almost like someone was singing softly. The sound was broken and unclear. I stood there, holding my breath to listen, but soon it faded away, leaving only the wind outside. One morning, I was taking my son to school when I saw a few workers from the building management talking to some police officers in the lobby, looking serious. I overheard them talking about the 3rd floor resident. Someone had complained about a strange smell coming from the 3rd floor lately. My mind buzzed as I thought of the man in the mask, the scraping noises, and those strange whispers. A sense of dread settled in my stomach. That evening, as I went to throw out the trash, I noticed a crowd gathering in the hallway. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to see what was going on. I saw a few police officers knocking on the man's door. After a while, the door finally opened and the man in the hoodie stood there looking at them coldly. I couldn't see his face clearly, but even through the window I could feel an eerie chill coming from him. In the following days, noises from the 3rd floor continued, sometimes the scraping sound, other times faint murmurs like people talking in low voices. The noises seemed to be getting more frequent, almost following a pattern, always starting after midnight. The feeling of dread grew stronger, and I started avoiding staying home alone, especially at night. One evening, my husband was away on a business trip, and I was alone with my son. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Around 11 at night, I suddenly heard a loud thud from upstairs, like something heavy being dropped on the floor, followed by the dragging sound. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly ran to the bedroom to hold my son. Then I heard a knock at the door, soft but very clear in the stillness of the night. I held my breath and slowly walked to the door, peeking through the peephole, but no one was there. My heart pounded as I wondered if I had imagined it. Just as I turned back to the living room, the knock came again, louder, almost right next to me. My fear surged, and I looked through the peephole again. Still, no one. I couldn't take it anymore. I called my husband, but he didn't pick up. My son woke up and started crying, and I tried to comfort him while thinking about calling the police. Just as I picked up my phone to dial the number, I heard a low, raspy laugh from the other side of the door. It was a chilling, deliberate laugh, as if someone was trying to keep quiet but couldn't help themselves. The sound made my skin crawl. I quickly locked the door, pushed a chair against it, and turned on all the lights. I held my son tightly on the couch, my heart racing like it was going to burst. I don't know how long it was before the noise outside finally stopped, but I didn't dare relax and stayed awake all night. The next day, the building was buzzing with shocking news. The man from the third floor, Alex, had been arrested by the police, suspected of involvement in multiple disappearances. They found several decomposing bodies in his apartment, all women who had been reported missing in the city. My mind went blank when I heard this. I thought about those encounters in the elevator, the scraping sounds, the strange singing at night. My whole body shivered. What terrified me even more was when the police later told us they found a notebook in Alex's apartment. It had information about several residents, including our address and our daily routines. Next to my name, there was a circle with the words, "Under observation." The apartment we worked so hard for, the good school, the dream home, now it had all turned into a nightmare I never wanted to remember. We decided to sell the apartment, even if we had to take a loss. On moving day, I stood in the empty room looking out the window at the third floor. The curtains were drawn tightly, the windows shut. I didn't know who would live there next, but I just hoped this nightmare was over, and we would never have to come back.